It's all feeling, it's all love, it's all connection, that human stuff. Welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your most recent album, Splash.
Thank you.
Released this year with Michael Formanek on bass and Jess Smith on percussion, inspired by the artwork of Cy Twombly.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about Cy Twombly's work and how it inspired you in your composition and improvisation?
Yeah. Well, I encountered Twombly's work for the first time in 1994. I was living in New York, and there was a big retrospective of his work at the Museum of Modern Art. And I read about it in the New York Times before I went, and I read that he would practice as a young art student in the dark. He would draw in the dark. And because, I'm sure I'm putting my own interpretation or projection onto it, but what I understood was that for him it was more important to feel the line than to see it. And I feel that way about playing the piano and about music, that, especially the way I play the piano, that it's more important, the physical gesture, the impulse, is in some ways more important than the sound. I mean, it's not really, and I know people would think, what do you mean? But for me, it was really about the energy of the energy of the gestures, and there's the whole chalkboard series.
That's
which
right.
was
And
fantastic.
there's a piece chalk.
Yes, and I actually played that tonight.
Do you want to draw that on the board right now for us? What is it, the action words, or like splash is an action word?
So I thought about, I was working with a colleague out in Oakland. We were co-teaching a graduate improvisation seminar. Zena Parkins, fantastic harpist and composer and just an amazing musician. And we were coming up with ideas that we could give the students to kind of as prompts for exercises for improvising. And she suggested action words. And so as I was working on the splash music, I started thinking about, what if I use those as prompts for the music? But they all come from what I imagine are some of the gestures that Twombly makes: to splash, to drip, to scribble, to scrawl, so that's how that came about.
That's amazing. You grew up in Evanston, Illinois.
Well, I was born in Evanston.
You were born?
But I actually grew up in Glencoe, which is a little bit further north on the lake.
Oh, okay. But did you grow up at Frank Lloyd Wright House?
Yes. There was a subdivision of Frank Lloyd Wright houses that were like middle income housing surrounding in the same neighborhood as a big house he built for his lawyer.
Oh.
And it was called Ravine Bluffs, and there were like 5 of these more modest middle income houses that were really beautiful. They were in the prairie style. It was really a special thing. I know my parents were very thrilled to be in a house by Frank Lloyd Wright. So I learned a lot about Wright and his architecture growing up, and he made a big impression on me.
And do you think it affected how you look at music today, like just living in his design space? Or
yeah, to be in an aesthetically beautiful space like that was important. And when I started to really become serious about music, when I moved to New York, I was studying, I took some composition lessons with Henry Threadgill. And Henry was talking about his sort of system of organic composition. He would start with a small cell of music, and, the whole piece would grow out of this one little idea. And I knew from having studied Wright's architecture in high school that he often would start with a simple motif, and he wanted the building to appear as if it grew out of the landscape. And so I started thinking about music as a space, as a physical space, and, an aesthetic space that, what kind of space did I want to create? And how could I move, so Wright's thing was the outside should flow into the inside and the inside to the outside. And all of those things made sense to me. as a young improviser composer trying to figure out what to do. Like, how do I blur the lines between composition and improvisation? How do I move in and out that way? How do I take a single idea and allow something to grow from that? And so I think it was more after studying music and then reflecting on the experience of living with Frank Lloyd Wright that I understood more how to apply that idea.
Right. When you're looking at a piece of art, as you would have Cy Twombly at the MoMA, or if you're listening to a piece of music, maybe it's not yours. When you're looking at the art, do you hear things? And when you're listening to the music, do you see things?
I don't have synesthesia in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
But for me, it's more of a dialogue. It's more dialogic because, like, I walked into this gallery at MoMA and I was like, this makes me want to respond through playing music. So for me, I think I'm certainly not translating. Right. Sometimes I'll apply, like, I could give you an example. Like, I played this piece Chalk tonight that we talked about.
Yeah.
It was based on these drawings he would do of, like, it was almost as if he was practicing writing. He would like calligraphy, and he did this series of circles that some were bigger, some were smaller. I'm imagining maybe the tempo of his gesture changes.
Yeah.
And there were 3, and I was writing that for Splash. And I thought, well, this is a great trio idea. We each take a line. Now, I never gave the guys the drawing, but I came up with a series of cells or pitch sets. And I said, you can use any 2, 3 of these notes or 4 notes or all of them and make your own loop or a pattern and then try to play in a different tempo than I'm playing. And then I'll cue when we move to the next one and then change the way you're playing. So if you were playing fast, play slower. If you were playing loud, play softer, and that was the direction for the piece.
You've been described as a polystylist, but how would you describe your musical style and your approach to the piano?
Yeah, I'd say, I think I've come to see now, it wasn't necessarily what I set out to do, but that I've kind of absorbed a lot of the music that I've loved from my whole lifetime. I grew up outside of Chicago, as we said. The first real music I studied classical music as a child, but I got introduced to the blues and the Chicago style very young. I feel like that's still in my music, even if I'm not overtly playing a 12-bar structure or something. And then I got introduced to jazz and all kinds of 20th century classical music, and then the AACM, and then on, And I feel like I've just tried to absorb as much of it as I can, but not try to imitate it, rather just like let it come through if it wants to come through,
Right. When you were learning and when you were younger, a student maybe, did anyone ever tell you, you've got an unorthodox approach to the music? Did anyone ever say, no, you can't do that?
Well, not really. I stopped studying classical music when I was a freshman in high school, so I stopped pretty young. I still played some on my own, and then I didn't do it at all until college, and then I started playing jazz, and then I immediately fell in love with Cecil Taylor, so I skipped a lot of the jazz stuff, but I remember taking a piano pedagogy class, because I was trying to be a piano teacher in New York, and the teacher said, you have a beautiful way of moving at the piano, but of course, we don't do that. I was like, well, I think I'm more a dancer, and right. the sound happens to go along with it, but the impulses for me are very physical.
Yeah, very. You're practically jumping up a lot of the time. Your first album's called Jump.
Right.
You teach improvisation and composition. When a student comes to you that's taking an unorthodox approach and taking the music places you haven't seen it go, what do you usually do?
Yeah.
Encourage them.
Go for it,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love that when I find students like that. And it's not so common,
Interesting.
Lots of people want to learn how to do it right or play traditional first. And I respect that also, but you got to find your own voice. ultimately that's important, and you can experiment a lot now, and who knows where that'll take you, you know. So I try to encourage it.
On collaborations, you've collaborated. I mean, on the current album, you're collaborating with Michael Formanek and Ches Smith, and you've done so many over the years. You know, working with the likes of trumpeters Dave Douglas and Kwang Vu, Han Benink, Chris Speed, Eric Freelander, and you've got your new all-women group that you're doing now. It's called Fire and Water. Incredible. What do you look for in collaborators and bandmates, I guess?
I guess I'm looking for people who have a sound, you know, who have their own sound, who have developed their own thing, but who also like express the ethos that was part of my experience kind of coming up in New York, down, you know, on the downtown scene in the mid 80s and late 80s and then in the 90s, like who wanted to play each other's music but had their own thing as well. And you know, how do you write music for people so you feature what they do or their sound, but also express yourself as the composer or the band leader. So that was kind of the challenge, and that's what I look for is people who are empathetic in that way.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite configuration? Solo, trio, quintet, orchestra?
I think my favorites are. I mean, you know, I'm playing now in various trios, duos, trios, quartet, and quintet. I like larger ensembles. They can be fun, but there's less space for each individual. And so I've never gravitated towards that so much as a composer or band leader. But I tend to, I guess because I like odd numbers, maybe trio and quintet, but I'm playing in a fantastic quartet right now, so
there you go.
And I like to play solo too, although I do it less frequently. I think if I played more, I would enjoy it even more.
How do you quiet your mind in your downtime? And I'm assuming you've got a lot of music going on in your head, maybe all the time. But what do you do to quiet your mind?
You know, I wish I had music more of the time. I'm you know, being a professor at the university like UC Berkeley, there's a lot of administration. And I've got a lot of like my students' issues. So I get a lot out of teaching because I'm learning constantly from my students and my colleagues. But I'm thinking sometimes more about their music than my own, which is, but what I do actually, you know, when I do need to come down is like after a show when I have a lot of adrenaline and I need to go to sleep, and or how I need to start the day is through meditation. So I do have a sitting meditation practice, and I've also been like a student of yoga for quite a few years now. So those are the things that help me quiet my mind, or a good glass of wine.
Nothing wrong with that. You know, you're doing 2 shows tonight. You did one solo, and then you're doing Francois Houle's ensemble. Francois Houle's, what's it called? It's called
The Secret Lives of Colors.
Great name. Thank you. But what is it you're looking for the audience to experience when you do a show?
Well, I'm just trying to create a space, going back to the architecture metaphor, where people, I mean, I want it to be, I mean, of course, I want people to feel good. I want people to maybe experience something they need to experience, you know, like if they're working through something, maybe something in the music would, but I really just want to create a space that's, you know, I hope uplifting and, you know, joyous.
I think you have.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And so you've got one more set at the Something Else Festival with Francois and the Secret Lives of Color, and then you're off. You're on the road.
With this band, we're going to Ottawa tomorrow night to the Ottawa Jazz Festival, and then we go to Montreal. We're playing on Sunday night at a festival at Casa de Popolo.
Nice. Good venue.
And then, or Di Popolo. And then after that, I'm flying to New York, and I'm rehearsing new music with Fire and Water, my quintet, and we're playing at Roulette next week.
Oh, fun.
So it's like I'm so happy to just have all these opportunities to be playing and writing and
Well, I really appreciate your time and your talents. Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.